What's up, Dreamedia family? This is Zach. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm up here high in the Rocky Mountains at another beautiful modern mountain custom home. And today, we're gonna be changing the game for this household. We are gonna be turning their flex space game room area into a killer stealth home theater featuring a 5.4.6 Dolby Atmos system with a retractable drop-down screen and an Epson LS12000. I can't wait to get into this property and show you guys what our game plan is. We're gonna give you a full installation video. I know you guys have been asking for them, and we're out here today to deliver. So make sure you drop comments down below, let us know how you're loving the content, and give us a big thumbs up. If you want to purchase, you know who to call. Let's go! Welcome back, Dreamedia family. So now I'm standing inside of this beautiful home, and I'm gonna give you guys a run through of what we're gonna be doing today. So to recap, we have a full Focal 300 series architectural in-wall and in-ceiling speaker system. The configuration that we're gonna be running today is going to be a 5.4.6. Let's break that down. What does that mean? Essentially, we're gonna have a 5-channel bed layer. Typically, you guys all are familiar with like a 5.1 channel speaker system. In this room, we're gonna be doing a 5.4.6 channel Dolby Atmos system. So 5.1 back in the day was great with Dolby Digital, and we still put a lot of 5.1s in like primary bedrooms or living room situations, maybe a den. In this room, this is going to function as their primary movie watching room. This is going to be their movie room, their Netflix and chill room. So we want to put in a very nice system. We're going to be running that 5-channel bed layer featuring the Focal 300 series in wall speakers for the front left and right, as well as our rear left and right speakers. And then for our center speaker, we're actually going to be doing something a little bit custom here. We have a very unique room to where we wanted to go with the biggest screen possible, and we also wanted to view our projector screen from the hot tub. So we're flipping the room and adding a couple conversation swivel seats in addition to this L-shaped couch. So the reason that we're going with the LCR 5, which is an in-ceiling LCR center speaker, is so that we can mount that center speaker in the ceiling, because the center of the room actually lines up with this spare guest bedroom, as well as there's a bunch of framing that wouldn't allow us to put the center speaker centered on the wall. It's a very unique room, and we're just trying to make the best of it. Keep in mind, this customer did not want to do any construction to the space to make it into a more dedicated cinema. So we're trying to make the most out of this room by putting in a stealth package, making everything hidden to where you don't even know that this is a killer movie room until you hit your one button press touchscreen URC remote, and then the screen's gonna drop, projector's gonna come on, and the room's gonna come to life. So to recap, we got that 5-channel bed layer with our center speaker that's gonna go in the ceiling with our drop down projector screen. Now, we're gonna be running 4 subwoofers, the SB16 Ultras. These are sealed 16-inch subwoofers from SVS. We're gonna be putting one at the front of the room on the left, one at the front of the room on the right, and 2 at the rear of the room, right underneath our front left and right and our rear left and right speakers. Additionally, for our .6, so that was our 5, .4, and then for our .6 is gonna be our Dolby Atmos effects. We're gonna be running the same speaker that we're using for our center speaker, we're going to be using for all of our in-ceiling speakers, because the customer wanted to get this project done in time for ski season, and we did not have availability on the IC A6s that we were initially going to use, so he went ahead and upgraded. So these Atmos effects are going to be wicked, guys. We're going to be using the IC LCR 300 series for all 6 Dolby Atmos speakers. It's gonna be absolutely insane. All right, so that's a recap on our audio system. Now let's talk about our video system. I am super excited about this setup. So we're gonna be featuring the Dragonfly, which is a Snap AV product, custom integration series product that is gonna allow us to put an in-ceiling drop-down projector screen that's tab tensioned and also has ambient light rejecting properties. Because there is a lot of ambient light in the room, we wanted them to be able to view this space with the lights on or the lights off. So we're actually gonna have to cut a massive hole here in the ceiling, and we're gonna recess the ceiling, this ceiling mounted projector screen, into the floor joist between the subfloor in the ceiling, and then whenever we press our button, it's gonna drop down out of the ceiling. Additionally, we're gonna be using the Epson LS12000 4K HDR projector. This features Epson's proprietary 3LCD technology that gives you incredible clarity with their eShift technology. eShift 4K means that it's not technically native 4K. It's not real 4K. It's not shooting out that native picture. But I'll tell you what, guys, Epson does a phenomenal job with their eShift technology combined with that 3LCD technology, giving you a massive, beautiful, sharp image, as well as insane color pop and very vivid imaging. The Epson LS12000 is hands down one of our best-selling entry-level projectors. So that's a recap on our video system. Now, we're going to be using a Denon 6800 AVR all-in-one amplifier as well as preamplifier built into the Strong FS series rack, which is going to hold all of our Sonos gear for the entire house, as well as our Denon 6800. AVRs are great because it's going to do 2 things. It's going to provide amplification as well as processing for all of our audio system in the space, as well as do our video scaling and send our signal to our projector, as well as any other zones that we want to hook up to the AVR. So we're going to send HDMI out of our AVR, which is going to live in our rack, up into our floor joist over to our Epson LS12000. Additionally, we're going to be doing a couple things to future-proof the room for the customer. We're going to be running an extra HDMI out to the patio and putting a power outlet out there so that they can then move this TV in phase 2 out to the patio for a second or even a mirroring image from what they would see here in the home theater. So whenever they're out there in the hot tub, they'll be able to either watch a second game on the TV out there underneath the patio or reflect the same thing that's here in the theater room. And we're going to go a step further with the future proofing. We're going to run a direct burial speaker wire for landscape speakers down the road. When we go to pop in our surround right speaker, we're actually going to run that from our rack over to that speaker, drill through the exterior of the wall, and stub out a little box. So if they ever want to add in some satellite speakers or maybe an in-ground subwoofer, they have the wiring in place. All right, guys, well, that was a recap of what we're going to be doing today in the house. There's one thing that I did forget, and that's the URC Control System. We're going to be featuring a couple of URC's brand new remotes. We're going to be using today the TRC 1120. This is their brand new remote single room remote, very elegant, nice gold trim. One button press will be able to control everything in the space. Has physical hard buttons too, so the homeowner, if they're laid back in the couch under the blankets, they can still control it no problem. Additionally, at the landing here, we're going to be putting in a touchscreen controller, the TKP 8600, and this is their brand new on-wall, in-wall touchscreen 8-inch controller. That way, whenever they come down the stairs, they don't even need this remote. They could use either or, but it's nice to be able to just on the wall, fire up the movie room. Keep in mind the URC system also offers a mobile app. All right, last thing from URC is going to be the MRX5, and this is the controller, the base station that's going to be sending all the commands once we program in the system to the individual devices, such as the projector screen, the projector, maybe an Apple TV, Xfinity box, the Denon AVR, all of the products in the space. Additionally, you can also do lighting and shade control like I have in my own home. All right, guys, that is our recap on what we're going to be getting into today. Next, I would like to put on my Dreamedia hat. That is now available for purchase through our online store, and get to work. I'm going to have Chase grab the camera and I'm going to take you guys through the space, give you a little lay of the land, as well as recap exactly where these speakers are going to go. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so I'm gonna just take you through the entire room and show you in detail the plans that I just discussed. Again, Dreamedia hats are now on sale. Head over and show your support, Dreamedia family. These things are sick. We got little equalizers here on the side and the Dreamedia logo on the back. Show your support. All right, so we got the TKP 6800. This is a 8-inch touchscreen. Voice control, super easy to operate. We're gonna put this here at the landing. Why not, right? They come down the stairs, maybe they don't wanna reach for the remote. They just hit a button, boom, the whole thing starts right up. Same thing, they come in from the mudroom, hit one button, easy to operate. I just thought this would be a quality of life thing. So we're gonna pop that in right here. And then in the rack, we're gonna put our MRX5. This is the processor here. And maybe you can just scan the rack and kind of show them currently what we have in place. Right now, it's just a whole home Sonos system, and we're gonna bring them into a truly immersive experience today. So we're gonna be relocating Xfinity as well as our router. You never wanna put your router inside here, so we're gonna go ahead and move it up. Cable guys, they don't know any better, but it creates like a Faraday cage. It's blocking his signal. So we're gonna move this puppy up here and move this down and put our AVR right here. Showed this in the intro as well. Nice little beautiful new remote. This is the 1120 single room controller. I love the new gold trim, one button press, easy to operate. I love how they also have all the hard buttons. So I got this for the couch. This is the one that just lives in the couch cushion. All right, so then let's go ahead and scoot back to the rear of the room. So follow me around this way, guys. This is gonna be the back of the room. We've kind of laid out the couch how we think we want it to be. This is rough. It may scoot just slightly back, but this is gonna be the primary seating area. And then we ordered 2 more chairs that are gonna go here and here. So they'll swivel and recline to where they can enjoy the image from any of this seating here. We have a nice table that's gonna go right here in the center as well, where you can kick your feet up and relax. The screen's gonna go right up there. In just a moment, we're gonna clear this out and we're gonna tape up everything and make sure we don't get dust all over the bar. So these are the front speakers I was telling you about. Front left, front right, subwoofer below it, front left, front right. We're gonna be using 4 of these massive SB16s, guys. This room is going to absolutely slam. Our front left and right speakers are right here. These are the 300 IW6s, and we're gonna be using 4 of those. Front left and right, rear left and right. And then this is where things get really fun. So if you look here, we got tape all the way down here. We're gonna actually cut a massive hole out of the ceiling, guys, and we're gonna recess the projector screen into the ceiling. when they press the touchscreen, either handheld or on wall, it's gonna drop right out of the ceiling. It's gonna be absolutely incredible. All right, so right now, you guys, the camera, you're at the rear of the room. This is the front of the room. We're gonna have a massive 120-inch screen that drops down out of the ceiling. And then right here, we're gonna be popping this speaker out, as well as this speaker up here. You can pan up to it and show them. We're gonna take both of these and relocate them back there to the bar where Chase is standing right now, so that they have an additional zone where they can, adjust the volume separate from the rest of the room. So like, say if they're entertaining, you may wanna crank those a little bit more, or maybe even have a totally different music selection on in that space, maybe to match the outside patio. Just giving them some flexibility and better distribution throughout the space. So we're gonna put our center speaker right here. As you guys can see, we couldn't put a center speaker here or here. We had stud issues, as well as the screen choice would have had to been acoustically transparent and ambient light rejecting, and that would have increased the budget further. So we decided to put the center speaker right here on the ceiling, front, left, and rights, and then Dolby Atmos speakers. All right, now let's talk about our Dolby Atmos. So we're gonna have front Atmos right here where you see the current speaker. We're gonna pop that out and cut a bigger hole. Our right front Atmos here. And then we're gonna have mid Atmos left and right, and rear Atmos left and right. Nice dispersion, equally spread out over the entire seating area. So it should be extremely immersive. Now, right here at the rear of the room, we're gonna have our projector. So we're gonna need to put in a power outlet, as well as run our HDMI cable, and then a CAT cable for control, so that we can run a IR sensor right over the front of the projector, so that that ties into our URC system. Additionally, we're gonna be running a power outlet and HDMI out to the outside for a TV in the future. All right, guys, so that's a walkthrough of the space. Next, we're gonna move the couch out of the way, start taping everything up, and get into the hard work. Let's go! Man, look at all this room for activities. All right, Dreamedia family, we are moving along. We're just kind of getting our prep work going here. So laying some plastic down to make sure we don't get any dust all over the wine and all of the cups back here. Want to make sure that everything stays nice and clean back in here. His computer, everything is nice and taped up. We're gonna have to check stud placement for these two speakers that we're gonna move over. So right now you can see Kevin is removing one of the speakers. They just got some cheapo little, I think, Sonant speakers up in there, but you know, having speakers is always better than not. So we're gonna use those speakers and relocate them over here as just another zone, kind of like the patio that they can turn on and off at will when they're entertaining. I thought it'd be nice to have that flexibility. So we're gonna pop out these Sonants. Chase is gonna get back in there and check stud placement, and we're gonna start by just relocating these and getting the new holes cut for running our wires to this secondary zone by the bar. All right, so you can see the guys got these knocked out, and the next step is going to be, we're gonna pull this wiring back, and we're gonna have to relocate this wiring back here to the bar. So you guys can see Chase is now working on finding our studs so that we can determine the exact location of these speakers. When I came out and spec'd this in initially, I just kind of roughly threw up the tape. So we want to make sure we measure before we cut. All right, you can see Kevin's up here just measuring twice before we cut. Checking our studs again, marking everything out. When I came through for the initial consultation, just kind of slapped up tape, very, very rough. So we just want to make sure everything's 100% before we actually start cutting into the sheetrock. All right, so now Chase is checking studs out over here. It's actually kind of unique. We must have a header beam or some type of structural support here where the bar and this whole wall meets, and then the stud placement for the subfloor actually changes to this direction. So that's why it's so important that we take time right now to check our studs, line everything out properly before we start cutting these holes. So now he's relocating the proper placement for the speaker. And then he's going to do the exact same thing over here as well on the other speaker. Looking good, looking good. All right, guys, so these are going to be our front left and right and rear left and right. These are mono speakers. It features their aluminum magnesium inverted dome tweeter, and see how it has a rotatable tweeter. Can you show that off, Chase?
Yeah, angle, so you get an angle.
Get your high frequency audio. Yep, you want to position that towards the listening area, and then they got their proprietary flax woofers for our mid-range frequency. Give us a little treble here at the rear of the room, but we will have no lack of treble and bass once we hook these SB16s up. We're going to be doing 4 of them.
Guys, look at the back, right? You can see the tension straps for these hooks are individually mounted, right? So you can take one off. Why would I do that? Let's say I cut a hole, I miss the stud, or if I have to mount the speaker flush up against a stud, you can cut right up against the stud here, remove these 2 clips, and then you have 45-degree angle marked ports from Focal there to mount directly to a side stud. It's not any instructions.
I know that.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times now. So yeah, you pop this clip off. It's a spring, so you'll have to pull the spring out and declip it with a Phillips head or something there to get it out. Then this ring comes right out. And then if you're an installer, you can save that in case you break one in the field. And then you just go ahead and just send a drywall screw or any type of mounting screw there. You want something that doesn't have a round tip head because you still need the screen to go on. But any type of wood screw, drywall screw, you can send it a 45-degree angle. And you can see it's even bezeled back there for the screw to come through. So never seen anyone talk about that, but
Genius.
Focal threw that in.
Awesome. Great tip, Chase. You the man. All right, so check it out, guys. We're proceeding forward. We got our nice Klein Tools level out here, laser level. And the guys are tracing out where the speaker needs to go, getting it lined up. You can see we've already traced out one, and we're gonna trace out our second, making sure that it looks aesthetically pleasing on the ceiling. Cut the holes and run our new wires. Moving along. All right, as you guys can see, now we got one beautiful hole that just barely avoided that plumbing line. Hey, I'll mark it up. Perfect. So now on to the next speaker. I love this method, by the way, Kevin. Very smart. All right, guys, so we got our 2 in-ceiling sonance right here, and we're gonna repurpose these to go in the ceiling right here. Now we have our hole cut and right here. And keep in mind our AV closet is right behind here. So we're going to be able to easily drop our wire down and hook it up to our Sonos amp so he has an additional zone for these bad boys. All right, moving along now, we're going to get our big 120-inch in-ceiling projector screen out of the box and mark out exactly on the ceiling where our cutout's going to be. And the guys are going to work on getting this puppy out of the box while I run up and grab lunch. All right, I'm going to go over the mounting brackets and the hardware that's included first. RF remote. Although it does include an RF remote that I believe can just be wall mounted. Let me show you here. Yeah, has this nice little bracket on it here. Although we have this piece, we're not going to be using it. Pretty simple remote, up, down, stop. Not a whole lot to it. RF takes 2 AAAs. But keep in mind, we're going to be using a URC system, so we're either going to use a trigger or IR to the unit, probably a trigger. But as the installation progresses, we'll check out the options and get a wire ran. What we'll do is probably just run a Cat 6 or Cat 7 cable, whatever bulk wire we have on the truck, up to the projector over here, as well as up to the projector screen over here for control purposes, so that we can integrate into the URC system so that they have that one button press touch experience that I was explaining earlier in the video. And we got some plastic end caps for the enclosure. All right, guys, so right here is our high voltage power junction that we're going to need to mount up in the ceiling, and then our licensed electrician is going to be connecting in so that it's hardwired. All right, and here we got our different connections for control. As you can see, we have that trigger I was talking about, as well as an IR cable. Here, control cables. And last but not least, our manual. Always read the directions, guys, especially when you're dealing with complex installs like this. Or hire one of our preferred installers or local integrators. All right, the fun is about to begin. So we got our projector screen out of the box, got our manual so we can check exactly how big we need to cut that hole that's going to run all the way down here. But we need to make a nice big hole right here above the closet, because this is going to be our home run for all our wires. So you can see we have the studs marked out. What we're going to do is cut a pumpkin cut a little bit bigger than the studs. That way, whenever we're finished, we can just screw the piece of sheetrock back in to the drywall guys when they come, so the customer doesn't have big gaping holes in his wall. So now Kevin is prepping to cut that hole, and then we're going to drill down through the top of the header. Follow along. Moving right along, now we're gonna go ahead and take a break. We got our hole cut over here above the closet. We need more plastic to cover the rest of the house because the sheetrock's kind of catching a breeze and blowing it up the stairs, and we just want to keep this home pristine, as well as we're gonna get some thicker plastic to put down on the floor so we can just wrap it all up when we're done after the sheetrock repair and everything. So me and Chase are gonna put a drop cloth down and try to cut in our front left, our center speaker, and our Atmos mid left as well, because the sheetrock will fall directly below under a moving blanket. So we're gonna continue forward. Follow along, guys. All right, guys, so we got our first speaker marked out here, and now we're working on getting the same measurement over here for our right speaker, and that way we can get dead center for our center speaker. And we're gonna hold off on cutting this bad boy just because we wanna put our plastic wrap over these exits here, because we're about to really cause a ton of drywall to fly around this room. We're gonna wrap that TV as well. Okay, so we're moving real slow here, making sure that we measure twice, cut once. We just went ahead and we're kind of basing our measurements off of using the existing speakers that were in there for distributed audio, because we want to cover as many holes as possible. That one here in the middle of the room we're going to have repaired, but this one right here was pretty much right in line with where we needed it. So we just measured the distance of the screen, which is going to be 130 inches in width, the enclosure, and we wanted the left and right front Atmos to be in line. So we're just taking our time to make sure that these are traced out perfect so that we cut once and everything's aligned. Next, we have our center mark right here. We're gonna line up our template with center and measure, double check that it is centered between the speakers, left and right in the ceiling. And then we're gonna go ahead and start cutting. All right, so we now have our front Atmos right speaker cut in, as well as our front left Atmos. We're working on tracing out our mid Atmos and our rear Atmos now, and we're just gonna rinse and repeat. Trace, cut, trace, cut. Follow along, guys.
So you guys see, I did it with the oscillator, and so is Kevin, but when we're oscillating and trying to cut a straight line, we have that second hand just touch. I use my pinky, he was using his middle finger. we have a finger touching the drywall. Watch it. Oh, on a new cut. But you do that just to stabilize your blade. It's really hard to cut a straight line without doing that.
All right, guys, we're moving right along with this installation. Super fun one. Can't wait to see this thing come to fruition. So right now, we're working on our wall speakers. We got all of our ceiling speakers cut in, looking real sharp. Now we're going 36 inches, 3 feet from the floor to the bottom of our speaker cutout. And that's gonna put, based off of my measurements with the couch, that's gonna put our speakers tweeter, which is where the high frequency audio comes out of, like your dialogue and people talking, right at ear level. What this is going to do is ensure that we separate out our ground level effects from our overhead effects. You always want your fronts and your surrounds, all of your bed layer within 15 degrees, according to home theater standards, Dolby spec, at 15 degrees from your ear level. So we're roughly about, it depends on how they slouch down and how this is kind of relaxed seating. So in this situation, it may not be exactly 15 degrees because they have very relaxed sectional seating where they're probably going to be like lounging with their head barely above the seating. So we're about anywhere between 10, depending on how they sit in the couch, between 10 to 20 degrees from your listening, from your ear. So we're gonna go ahead and get these cut in at 3 feet from the floor. All right, guys, check it out. We are cruising. The boys are absolutely dominating despite running into structural support, fire breaks, studs, electrical. We have all the holes cut for the speakers. We got our front left and right, rear left and right cut in, our center speaker, all 6 Atmos speakers. And now we're gonna move on to cutting a massive hole in the ceiling for our retractable drop-down motorized screen. It's coming along. All right, so the guys are in the middle of planning right now. What we're gonna be doing here is measuring from center, where our center speaker is. We have a dead center mark, and the whole thing is a 130-inch hole. So they're gonna have to measure 65 inches to the left, 65 inches to the right, and then measure our width and make a massive cut. And that's gonna be where we're gonna wrap it up today. Follow along. All right, welcome back, Dreamedia family. We are moving on to day number 2 out at this incredible stealth home theater package that we're installing here today. We're gonna dive right back into it and pick up where we left off. We're gonna start today by knocking out some of that hard labor. We're gonna cut a massive hole right here in the ceiling and go ahead and get our hole cut so we can start laying our structural support for our retractable motorized 120-inch drop down tab tension screen. All right, guys, let's get into it. All right, guys, so before we actually start cutting the hole, we need to double check our measurements, double check center. We want everything to be symmetrical and line up perfect in the room. Even though this is a retrofit, new construction homes, it's very easy for us to drop our pre-construction brackets into place. Sheetrock guys cut the holes for us, Plumbers avoid those holes, electrician avoid those holes, but in a retrofit situation like this home here today, there's a lot of unknowns. So we want to be very careful to measure twice and cut once. So what Chase is doing now is he's checking our center mark that we had put in place previously on day 1 of the install, and he's going to measure 130 inches, basically 65 inches left, 65 inches right, and he's going to measure the width of our opening that we need and trace out exactly left and right a location that we can then hold up our template and start tracing out exactly where we need to cut. Then we'll physically cut the sheetrock and open up the wall. So just follow along as Chase works on getting all of his measurements perfect. The size of our opening is only gonna be 7.5 inches wide. How cool is that? It's gonna have a little flap to where you don't even see this projector screen at all until you hit your URC touchscreen, handheld, or wall controller, and it's gonna drop right out of the ceiling. And again, we did one that's tab tension, meaning it has adjustments on the side to ensure we don't have any wrinkles. It's gonna look like a retractable TV. It's gonna be stunning, guys.
For everyone doing this at home, you're planning on this, you need about 130 inches. It's about right under 131 inches width on the casing, 7.5 inches deep by 7.5 inches wide, like you were saying. And the screen mounts either on a cross bracket or directly to the ceiling above, which we can't do today here because we've radiant flooring above us.
Yes, so we're gonna have to create some structural support for our screen housing to mount into, because we want to ensure that we do not damage the radiant heat in the floor. If you're up here in Colorado or many places in cold climate, we actually have tubes that run through the floor, and they tie into your hot water heater, and the tubes heat up, creating radiant heat that penetrates the walls, the floor, and really is a more energy efficient way of heating your home versus, like, say, forced air, which we use down in Texas or Florida, where they have registers on the ceiling and they're just pushing the air conditioning or heat into the space. So we need to be hyper aware when we're doing this installation not to damage the radiant heat in the floor, because the water, if you put one screw through the radiant heat, you're in big trouble. So we're actually going to put some L brackets in place as our preliminary plan, so that we can completely eliminate the possibility of hitting the radiant heat. Little pro tip there. All right, check it out, guys. You can see Chase is starting to mark out on the ceiling with a pencil. Some guides here that'll go all the way down so that we can line up our template and make sure it's nice and straight and square with the home.
Yeah, this is a space that we're trying to utilize our laser in, but with the paint texturing, everything's just a little bit off enough that we just have to measure off the house. Because if we're using exact measurements from a laser, it wouldn't look right in the space physically. We found that out with our speakers yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday, if you guys watched through the entire video to this point, we got all of our ceiling and wall speakers cut in all the way around. This configuration is going to be a 5.4.6 Dolby Atmos system, and we're doing something a little unique just due to the way that the room is laid out. It's not a perfect dedicated home cinema. It wasn't designed to be a movie room. This is really common in these Colorado houses. I mean, even my own home, they put in a game room, and initially we threw in a pool table, a billiards table, and it just didn't get used. It was sitting up there for probably the first year I lived in the home, and after playing it one time, we were like, maybe we should get something that we can actually use. So we went ahead and got rid of the billiards table and put in a movie room, and honestly, it was the best investment in our home. We use it every single night religiously with my 4-year-old, and on the weekends all the time. He just loves watching movies and all his TV shows. It's an incredible experience if you've never had a true cinematic home theater, which this room, although it's not a dedicated home theater, it's going to be extremely immersive, and I think the homeowner's gonna be thrilled. They've never had a movie theater before, so I can't wait to see the look on their face when we fire this thing up. How we doing over there, Chase?
Good.
So in just a moment, once we're finished double checking all our measurements and we feel confident, we're gonna go ahead and draw a massive line all the way down and then get our saws out and start buzzing away.
Could you jump up here and help me grab this last measurement?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and Zach, your media room theater hybrid is one of the coolest applications of some of the features we've talked about before, where sound treatment would have looked horrible in the space, definitely not passed the F test.
Oh yeah.
So we were able to use design-oriented soundproofing. Zach has the pillowiest couch that he could buy. He's got thick blackout shades that drop in that room and help absorb sound and deal with reflections.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a good example of how you can, get away with a hybrid space without fully botching the room for any other use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. It's a multi-purpose space. And what's really great, and we're kind of getting off track here now, but in my room, another thing that we love seeing is the nature. We have like 100 birds in the backyard that fly around in the summer and feed off of all the flowers, the wildflowers, and all the trees. And
Deer's there every day. And
we have deer and elk and moose. So like, it's almost like a nature viewing area / a home theater. So I guess the point of this conversation is, don't be intimidated to call us and show us your less than ideal room. Let us throw some ideas at you, and you'll be surprised at how creative we can get.
Yeah, so guys, something else that we're accounting for here is there are glue lambs in the ceiling that cover about 3 inches in their T-shape. So we are making sure that we're falling well within those so we don't run into a bump issue.
All right, guys, we now have our line mocked up, and next we can get to cutting. All right, guys, so right now I'm just Chase is taking some phone calls, getting back with clients, and I'm kind of mapping out our subwoofer and our power outlets for our subwoofers. We're gonna need to relocate this power outlet over to here. The electrician's coming later today, so I'm gonna go ahead and start getting everything cut and ready for him to make his connections. Maybe pull the Romex for him. We got a hole here that we need to cut to get through this stud. We're gonna pop this plate off and drill through that stud to get to this hole that I'm gonna cut. And then I'm gonna pop through this stud. These resemble studs over to this hole. And then I'm gonna put power here. And then we're gonna have this hole cut for our RG6 coaxial cable. This is a little nice template you can pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's that kind of puts little marks in the sheetrock for a single gang or dual gang hole, making it a little bit easier. It's like a stencil. So now I'm gonna go ahead and cut all these holes. All right, guys, so Chase is masked up today. We're about to get the drywall flying again, and I'm gonna do my best to bring the camera up so you guys can see how labor intensive cutting sheetrock is. Highly recommend a mask. The guys didn't have one on yesterday just because they forgot it, so really happy to see Chase masked up, and I'm excited to get this giant hole cut. Thanks for following along, guys. Make sure you drop comments down below. If you comment, it boosts engagement so that more people can see this video and it helps us out. So comment, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Thanks for watching, guys. Chase is going into battle, guys. Wish him luck. Alrighty, guys, check this out. We are cruising now. So we got the hole cut and we can actually see what obstacles we have to overcome. So you can see right here, we have one high voltage Romex cable that's going to need to get scooted up a little bit. We need 7.5 inches of clearance all the way down. You can see we have some high voltage, looks like 240 volt. You don't want to nick those puppies. That'll send you flying. Those are some serious high voltage lines we'll have to be careful with. We also have a grounding wire. Up here we have a dryer vent, and we have about 12 other high voltage, looks like some 12-2 Romex that's gonna need to be relocated, as well as, what is that I'm seeing, a telephone wire maybe? Yeah, security wire. And then we have gas line as well, but I believe it's a flexi gas line based off of the texture, and I'm just gonna pray that that puppy has a little give in it, and it is a flexi. We'll see here momentarily, but we got her open, and not too bad. I think we'll have to relocate that dryer vent as well. I think it was a 1/2 inch short. Just push it up a little bit. Now we know what we got to work with. We're going to go ahead and get to relocating these and pushing them up just a little bit so that our enclosure will fit inside of this housing. And then we're going to have to add some structural support for the actual casing, the actual projector housing. But first, we're going to relocate and kind of push up all of these lines. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started on relocating and moving up to the 7-inch mark, 7.25-ish mark. All of our lines, high voltage, the dryer vents, the gas line, everything. Luckily, we did grab a hold of that gas line, and it is flexible, and it only needs to move like 1/2 inch. So I think we'll be okay. Luckily. This is going to be pretty labor intensive again. So Chase has put on his rubber gloves to insulate him in case, God forbid, he would hit a high voltage line. You always want to be safe when you're working around these type of products. So we're just going to take our time, measure out exactly how high each one needs to go. We're going to be utilizing the Z brackets here. And that's because we can't actually bolt into the ceiling anyways in this situation, because as we explained earlier in the video, this is a Colorado home that has radiant heat. There's tubes running in the floor full of hot water, and you do not want to hit those. So what we're going to do is get a couple L brackets from Lowe's, Home Depot, and we're going to bolt in a 2x4 on the left and the right hand side, and we're just going to use some lags and screw right into those 2x4s so it couldn't be more secure. Nice and secure, also eliminating the extra 1/2 inch that we would need for the flat brackets in order to relocate all of those wires and get this thing bolted firmly into the foundation of the home. right, guys. Chase is crushing. Check it out. Just got a giant hole cut so that we can actually push this back and then push all of these pipes up. A lot simpler than doing them individually like we did over here with this one. And this one over here. So now we're gonna double check and make sure we have the clearance that we need, but we should be good. Nice work, Chase. Okay, so now that we have all of our wires pushed up to the 7 1/4, 7 1/2 inch mark, giving us clearance to fit the enclosure for the projector screen up into our cavity. Now we're going to proceed forward with, Chase is just kind of tuning the wires up in there, and I'm going to start marking everything out for our support that will actually hold our enclosure. So you have floor joists, which you guys could see in some of the previous shots, that are running every 16 inches. What we're going to be doing is bolting into the sides of each of the subfloor and then putting a 2x4 as our anchor point to hold our enclosure. So what that means is essentially we're going to bolt it in like this. One is going to go into the side of the rafter. Yeah, like this. We're gonna have to cut it to length here in just a moment, but they're gonna go like this. Like that. And then by bolting into the sides of the structural support from the home, it's gonna provide a really nice stable platform for our enclosure to bolt in right in the middle. Right there. Yep. So that's what we're gonna be working on next, is cutting this to length, as well as taking these really super heavy duty steel plates and bolting them into the side of the subfloor joist. Follow along. All right, guys, check it out. We are moving along. We got all of our wires up nice and high now, plenty of clearance for us to go ahead and put that enclosure in for this giant projector screen. Next, we're gonna start running our wires. And I got our lumber here prepped with our L brackets. I'm actually gonna go ahead and screw these in as well. And I'll work on that while Chase is over here working on popping out the rest of the ceiling here and getting a home run back to our rack, so then we can start pulling some wire. All right, guys, we're moving right along here. So Kevin's working on getting through our header down to the AV rack. In the meantime, me and Chase are going to pull all our wire to length and start cutting it. You always want to leave extra slack when you're cutting, if you're using a bulk wire like this. A few feet extra is always better than a few feet short, so pull a little bit extra. Additionally, we got our bracing prepped and ready for the in-ceiling drop-down projector screen, so we're going to start pulling these all the length. For today's video, we're going to be using 14-2 shielded speaker wire from WirePath. This is one of the most popular bulk wires. We use it for pre-wiring houses. It's not like over-the-top nice wire, but it's pretty decent quality when you got a whole system to run and you're not doing like a true hi-fi setup. 14-2 is better than the builder grade that's typically put into your home. If you have a newer home, you'll probably see like 16-2. So we just went up one gauge to give us better audio performance for this Focal 300 series system. All right, guys, thanks for following along. All right, right, Dreamedia family, we're moving right along. The guys are going absolutely beast mode out here. We have all of our holes cut for our drop-down screen, all the speakers. Chase is working on some of the header beams we got to get from the ceiling over to the wall. So we see it having to cut holes in the wall and the ceiling and drill through the header, which is a pretty challenging feat. So he's working on that. He already got through the front right. He's working on the front left, and then we're going to be moving on to our rear left and right. And in the meantime, we got Kevin over here, and he's going to be working on getting through all of our subfloor so that we can run our wiring from the rack over to the Atmos top front speaker and then shoot it down. And if we can get all our wires coming down through this left side, our left speaker line, then we can shoot them through the floor joist over to this side of the room for all of our right speakers. That's the plan. Follow along. So right now, Kevin just put a nice big hole, see here, with a nice big bit so that we can run a bunch of wires through our subfloor, and we're going to be shooting them down. So he's going to do the same thing going that way. And then we're going to have to cut a hole in the middle because there's studs every 16 inches that we got to get through. All right, so check it out, guys. What we're gonna do now is be drilling through all three of these studs up here. We're gonna start with the one right there in the center, and then there's gonna be another one there and another one there, so that we can fish our wiring all the way from the back hole down here, up, over to here, and down to the AV rack, back over there, which we're gonna have to do tomorrow, but we're moving along. This is the nitty gritty. This is the hard physical labor that has to be done in order to make these theaters come to life. I labeled this video the stealth theater because everything is hidden in the room, or will be hidden, but it requires a lot more labor in order to get everything recessed like this. Like, just imagine if we were to mount the projector screen on the outside of the wall and the speakers, set them on the floor. Like, way less labor. But this homeowner didn't want to do any construction of the room, but wanted everything to be hidden. So we got the drywall guys lined up to repair all these holes, but we're having to do some pretty intensive labor in order to get everything stealth. But it is going to be sick when it's all said and done. So stay tuned. We're going to continue working. The guys are crushing right now. We're cruising right along. Chase is working on this rear left speaker right now. We're about to start cutting the holes for our projector. We need power, HDMI, and control. So we're about to cut 2 holes right here in the ceiling. Check this out.